Thank you everybody for joining from wherever you are. My name is Lisa Gear and I'm the Dean of Admissions here at Southwestern. I'm going to be in the chat answering some questions there. And I will also be joined by two of our admissions ambassadors that I will let say a quick hello. So Fabiola, if you want to go first.
Hi, everyone. I am an incoming 3L, so we'll be in the chat to answer all your questions. So yeah, let us know.
Thank you, Emily.
Hi, also an ingoing traditional day 3L, and yeah, interested in answering any questions you guys have about student experience in the chat.
Thank you, Emily. So yes, we know that the topic of the bar exam is always of great interest, including to those just starting off their law school careers and journeys. So we thought this would be a great opportunity for you to hear from an expert on the bar, Professor Mary Basick, and she's going to be joined by some wonderful panelists as well to share their experience. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to them. Just know you will be able to ask questions. We ask that you use the Zoom raise hand feature so that Professor Basick can call on you that way. And then if you have questions in the chat, certainly we will do our best to answer those for you there too. So Professor Basick, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Everybody, I'm Mary Basick. I'm the Assistant Dean of Bar Preparation at the school, and you're all entering law school, so you know the bar is coming. I'm sure you've paid attention to news about it and things like that. It's kind of strange to talk about it when you're just getting started, right? But there's a couple of things about the bar that I think, even though it's in the distance, it's helpful to know when you're starting the journey of law school so that you have in your mind really where you're trying to go. And so if you're looking at like becoming a licensed lawyer as like your destination, it's where you're trying to get. And if you pictured it like a castle and you're going to get there, it's out in the distance, there's a moat around it. And the moat is the bar. You have to pass that to get to that licensed lawyer status, which is really cool. Some states have a smaller moat and you just step right over it and it's easy. California isn't one of them. So you probably know that. We have a more difficult bar exam, but don't worry because we have programming designed so that you are well prepared so that when you get finished with your education, you're going to be well prepared and able to pass even the difficult bar in California. But there's a couple of things that I thought would be helpful to share with you as you're starting. So first, what is it, right? Well, it's a big test and it's after you graduate and it covers more or less kind of, if I group them, about 12 subjects, kind of in large part. Now, why this matters is that the subjects that they test on the bar exam are in fact the exact subjects that you're going to start your law career learning, torts and contracts and things like this. These are the foundational things that all lawyers need to know. And so you start learning it right away, but you want to be thinking about how you're approaching this when you're learning in the very beginning. And the reason is because maybe in your undergraduate studies, you took a class and you learned something and you learned it really well and you took the exam and then it fell out of the back of your head, never to be seen again. You don't want to do that with the subjects that you're learning in your first year of law school because you need to really understand them in a deep and foundational way because you're going to be tested on them before they're going to give you that bar card. So that's something you want to pay attention to. Another thing about the bar that is helpful as you're going forward is to know is how they test the bar. So the California bar exam, which I think most of you are probably going to take, if you're taking a different one, it's slight differences. But the California bar exam is 2 days. It's a 2-day exam. And the first day is all in writing. It's a written exam. And the second day is all multiple choice. So first, let's talk about the written portion of the exam. So what you're going to be doing is in your law school studies, you may or may not know this, but the way we test in law school is we do kind of a big test at the end. You might have a midterm in the middle. It's usually a written exam. So you'll learn more about this. So this is just a little teaser on what it's like. They'll present it in the form of like a story, like it would be a client with a story. They're telling you their story of what happened, what trouble they're in, whatever it is. They have a contract dispute or whatever. And you read this and you're figuring out what are the legal issues involved, what's the import of what's going on, and you explain that to your professor. The bar exam does the same thing. What you'll notice in your exams in law school, you're going to learn a whole bunch of stuff. They test you on a portion of it in this way. So you're teasing through your brain, pulling those issues out and explaining the significance to your professor. The bar exam is the same. There's a bunch of stuff eligible for testing and they test you on a little bit of it, but you're doing it in the same written format. So we get you prepared for that, but that's how you do your exams as you're going through your first year, second year of law school. The multiple choice portion of the exam, you probably already have an opinion on your, right now, I'm good at multiple choice, I'm not good at multiple choice. However you feel about multiple choice, we will get you ready for these. They're called MBEs, and it's a little acronym we use. It means multi-state bar exam, and that's because all of the jurisdictions use the same multiple choice testing for the bar exam. And they're really much more difficult probably than what you're used to, such that a passing score in California is about 68% accuracy. We'll contrast that to, college, that would be like a D, right? Not here. So it's just a real different format. Like you get a lot of them wrong, and that's okay. But just kind of that, I think it's helpful to know that about the way the testing is, so you don't get really down on yourself if you're not really, doing great at them, because it's a relative term on this particular test. So I think that kind of gives you a general idea of how the test is, how what we're doing in your very first year, in the very first semester, is getting you starting to be geared up for this style of testing that you're going to need to get good at in your first year and going into the bar. So I am joined today by several alumni who just a couple of short years ago were sitting exactly where you all are now. And I think they are the people you really want to talk to, because they're going to give you the straight scoop about really what should you be doing, what to get a good start, right? The goal of all of this is for you to get licensed and be a lawyer and go on and have wonderful careers. So what could you be doing now to be getting yourself headed in that right direction? And they're going to share that with you. So I want to introduce the panel to you, and we're going to spend most of our time and have some questions for them about information I think you will find very helpful. And then at the end, we'll be able, you can ask questions as well. Okay, so first, let me introduce to you. And when I do, can you just unmute and say hello so everybody can see your face, right? So we know who everybody is, because I think we had a couple pages of screens here. So the first person that I'm going to introduce you to is Janie Mathis. And hold on, I got to read. Okay. She graduated in 2020, so just a year ago. She was a D student here. While she was in law school, she was a member of Moot Court and also on the Law Review, which, if you all don't know, is the journal that schools put out that has all the academic articles in it and stuff like that. And it's quite an honor to be on the Law Review. While she was at the school, she also had a judicial externship, and this was in the Los Angeles Superior Court. She also worked as a law clerk for a plaintiff's firm. Those are the people suing, if you didn't know. And she was a summer associate and a law clerk for a defendant's firm. So that's the people who are representing the people you're suing, right? So she got a really full gamut of experience from the court point of view, from the people suing, from the people being sued, right? So that's like a really fulsome experience. She's currently working as a civil corporation defense litigator. And can you say hi, Jamie, so we can see your face?
Hi, everybody. And then shout out to the person I saw from Huntington Beach. That's my hometown, born and raised.
I saw that too. I should mention I am speaking to you from Newport, so we're neighbors, right? Whoever's in Huntington, that's where I'm at. So all of Southern California is just merges together for those of you who aren't from around here. Did Jose come in, Lisa? We haven't seen him. Okay, Jose, I'll introduce you to him if he can get here. So apparently Jose is such a busy lawyer that he does not have time to talk to us right now. His meeting's running long, but I'll give you a little bio on him, because I was trying to get people from different experiences, so you could see, that there's a broad spectrum of students who are here. So when he gets here, and I'm sure he will, he was also a day student, but Jose hails from Puerto Rico, and he came to California to go to law school, and he wanted to be an entertainment lawyer, right? So you're near all the entertainment. So his activities while he was in law school, he was a part of the Entertainment Law Society, makes perfect sense. I'm sure some of you are interested in entertainment law, no doubt, right? And he was also participatory in the Outlaw student group. He ended up, his externships were limited to the entertainment field, and he worked for FX Networks and Paramount Pictures and also 2 law firms he externed for. He has currently passed the bar on his first try and is working in legal affairs at FX Networks, which is a subsidiary of the Disney company. So basically, he is living the dream that he had when he went to law school. And hopefully he'll be able to join us. Matt, are you here?
Hi, everybody. I'm here.
This is Matthew French, and Matt is super accomplished. So Matt did the Scale 2-year program. Are any of you doing the Scale program? Okay, but I love the people who are game to say, hey, law school is really hard and a lot of work. Let's do it faster. And so that, big shout out to the folks who do Scale and that program. So, okay, give me a second, because Matthew did a lot. So he was the vice president of Scale in the Student Bar Association. He was the treasurer of the Outlaw Student Group, a student member of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee and the Curriculum Committee. He was a vice chair of the Southwest National LGBT Bar Association, a few other things involving LGBT issues. He was a participant in a number of different clinics and things like that. He was participated in the Trial Advocacy Honors Program. So that, like, moot court is the appellate level, and the trial advocacy is when you're doing your pretend mock trial. You'll get exposure to all of that in your first year. And the process, you can see what you like. And he was also in moot court participant and got honorable mention. He was a judicial extern for the U.S. District Court. So that's our federal court system, where Jamie was in the state court, right? And he also was a legal extern at a law firm. He is currently working in plaintiff. He is in fact out on location for one of his clients. He is working in civil litigation, and he specializes in elder abuse, neglect, med mal, other forms of personal injury. So he's on the plaintiff side, and Jamie is on the defense side. So perhaps one day they will run into each other on a case. So that, you said hi, everyone knows who you are. And then the no Jose, right? Yeah, Lisa? Okay.
Correct.
Well, he can tell us when he gets here. So the other student that I want to introduce, not a student, lawyer, what am I talking about, is Ray Chowdhury. Say hi, Ray, where are you?
Hi.
So Ray took in contrast to like what Matthew, where he was super involved at school, Ray worked full-time or very close to it while she was going to law school, and she worked at Ralph's, and she did a part-time program. So she wasn't super involved in all the activities at school. There's a lot of ways to do things. She did, however, work as my research assistant on my most recent book. So I know she's super sharp. She is currently working at Ralph still, the place that she was, where she was working as a student, but now she's working there in employment defense for them in their legal department. So just there's different ways to get where you're trying to go. So that is kind of our panel, and I'm going to ask them a couple of questions that I think will provide some color for you on as you're going on this journey. So let me ask the first thing. Let me direct it at you, Jamie. What did you do when you look back now and you've gone all the way through the journey and you're looking back? What did you do right that you are like, yeah, I nailed that. That was a good thing to do from the starting point.
I feel like I can talk forever about my experiences. So first and foremost, I just kind of want to say this to all the entering students. I worked full-time before going to law school. So I studied for the LSAT on nights and weekends, and I came into Southwestern with 0 scholarship. And I knew Southwestern had a great merit-based program, merit-based scholarship program. And so I worked my little butt off. And then I ended up doing very well because of my work ethic. And I ended up graduating magna cum laude, which is the top 5% of the class, and landed an incredible summer associate position, which then brought me to the firm I'm at now. So I just want everybody to know kind of where you're starting right now means absolutely nothing as to where you potentially can go. And I think because I worked so hard during law school, it made taking the bar much easier for me. And I honestly walked away from the bar thinking it was easier than it was going to be, easier than I thought it was going to be. And I think it's just because I put in so much time studying for law school. So kind of some things that I did that I want to pass on is, first and foremost, this is very kind of like up from 36,000 feet, but get comfortable being uncomfortable. I think that that's something you will probably hear throughout this process, but it is so incredibly true in that there are a lot of things that you're going to be doing studying where it's new. It's all new for you. And so a lot of people are uncomfortable with that. I was incredibly uncomfortable with that, and kind of taking practice exams and seeing everything that I had done wrong and everything I had missed. But you just have to kind of keep pushing through that and embrace the uncomfort that you have. So that's kind of the big policy thing I have to say about that. Actual specifics though, is that for me, I wasn't somebody who was, I think, kind of naturally inclined to do well in the legal field. I was somebody who had to study very hard to kind of understand the different concepts. And so law school really is about understanding the big picture of the law. And so one mistake rather that I did early on was I tried to memorize everything. Like second week, all my classes, I tried to memorize what I had learned thus far. I definitely would not do that. Don't try memorizing things right away. But as for things that I think I did well that helped me, was that our library has a lot of great resources for different books that kind of help you understand what's going on in your classes. So one book I used often was called the Understanding series. So like understanding contracts, understanding torts. There's a different book for each subject. And that kind of takes the doctrines and the subjects that you learn in class and it breaks them down into layman's terms. And so I found the Understanding series very helpful. And then there's also a series called E&E. It's examples and explanations. And our library has them. They have them for every subject. And again, I found those very easy or very helpful to make digesting the information easier. I had a professor who once said, if you're studying the material and you do not have questions, then you're doing it wrong. And I felt like that was very true. I mean, you should be engaging with the material to where you are having questions. Like, I don't quite understand what this means, because the professors are great. They've been doing this for a while. You will be sitting in class and you'll be sitting there and you'll be thinking, oh, like this makes sense. This is so clear. And I think one thing that I really did well was after class, I set up a regimented schedule where every single week I would review the material that we had gone over in class. And this is something that the school and our program will teach you guys to do, a kind of weekly synthesis, I think they call it, where you're engaging with the material and creating your outline kind of on a bigger picture. And so during that weekly synthesis, I really would try and engage with the material and ask questions and see if I fully understood it, because it's different from when you're sitting in class and the professor explains it so eloquently versus when you're kind of at your desk alone trying to figure out like what the heck is going on. So that's a couple things. So use the secondary sources in the library, great resources. Highly recommend doing the weekly synthesis and kind of touching the material after class. That way you kind of see what you understood and what you don't understand. That way you can look further into it. Let's see what else I have. I jotted down some notes.
I'm going to pop in, before you go on, Jenny, I just want to pop in with one comment. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog barking, the gardener's here. But what I wanted to share with you is that idea of frequently reviewing the material is what allows us to get it in our long-term memory. So that is what allows you to have a really deep understanding of material. And you don't have to like agonize over it, just go over it regularly, and it ends up becoming much more internalized in how you think. Sorry, go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, and then just some other things is there are the standard courses that every student has to take, like torts, criminal law, contracts, things like that. There are also a couple additional courses that are tested on the bar that are not required for students to take, like community property and remedies. I chose to take all the bar tested courses, even though I was doing really well in law school, and people had suggested like you can easily pick it up when you're doing bar prep. That made me uncomfortable. And so I took all the bar tested courses, which our school offers. So that's one other thing that I did that I'm happy I did, because it wasn't just another level of stress added to bar prep. Thinking, oh, I have to learn these 2 new subjects, even though they're not really beefy subjects. It still was something where I was like, okay, I've already learned this stuff. Everything that was tested on the bar, I had already learned. It was just a matter of kind of touching back and memorizing, so to speak. So that's one thing I did that I was happy about, was taking all the bar tested courses. And then honestly, I think kind of the last thing is just the work ethic. I really did treat law school like, not only was it a job, but like it was a job and profession that I was going into where I was going to be spending an exceeding amount of hours. So I sacrificed a lot. I sacrificed a lot of time with my friends and family. I spent so much time studying. And I remember when I was studying for the bar, there's this one professor, his name is Professor Heilman. He's incredibly clear and concise. And I remember when I was studying for the bar, the question was like, I don't know, how do you define murder? And in my mind, I heard Heilman's voice going like, murder is, and I could hear him like telling me what the law was. And so I spent so much time studying during law school that it just kind of like came back to me when I was studying for the bar. And that was so incredibly helpful. I think that's
Thank
it
you.
in a nutshell.
Thank you so much. I have learned that Jose has joined us. Jose, are you here?
Hi, yeah, I'm here.
Hi, I gave you an introduction. I talked about your work in entertainment law, but now that you're here, let me ask you, if you look back to the beginning of going to law school, what worked for you? What did you do right? What advice would you give that worked out well?
Sure. I would say, it can be a struggle to get through some of these classes, especially the first year, and there will be courses that aren't as easy as other ones, that you won't, in my case, get as good a grade as you would want. That's okay. That does not mean that you won't be able to become a lawyer or that you won't pass the bar. I think the Themis and the bar prep courses are just really good at going over material that maybe you didn't do as well on, and I think their video lectures are just really good, and go over definitely the basics, and they don't go as deep as your first year courses. So if you don't do as well as you'd like the first year in some of those courses, like, don't stress out. Like, there will be time for you to really get it and to do well later on, and certainly when you take the bar.
That's good advice. Thank you. Matt, are you here? Everyone keeps moving around on me. Matthew.
Yes, I'm here.
I'm sure you have plenty to say. Tell us what you think.
Well, first, hello, everyone. What an exciting time. You've been accepted into law school, which certainly implies a certain amount of hard work up to this point. So enjoy it, because as with many things in life, the excitement comes and goes depending on the amount of stress that is happening in your life. Southwestern's an amazing school. And one of the things that I love most about it, and is also part of the answer to this question, is that it's a community. I think community, though, for all of us in any setting, requires active engagement. So community doesn't happen to you, you participate in it and help make it happen.
1 o'clock.
Thank you. So for me, having that support structure while I was at school was tremendously helpful, whether that was other students, whether that was professors, administrators, and the resources on campus, like the library. So for me, some of the things that worked best, one was taking good notes, which interestingly enough wasn't something that I particularly had the skill set for. I tended in undergrad to just listen. But in law school, it's a lot more technical, a lot more rules that you need to be able to hold in your brain. And as you go through the course, you develop a more and more complex understanding of how they all fit together. So for me, having really good notes that I could go back to and that made sense to me was helpful. The secret is that law school is bar prep. I think oftentimes people think of bar prep as something separate. And in fact, law school teaches you much more breadth and depth of what it means to be a lawyer and to learn the law. And the bar exams just boil that down to, they simplify it to an extent. And so bar prep helps you to weed away some of the stuff that you don't need to practice right now. Stuff you need to know to be a good lawyer, but you don't necessarily need to memorize those rules. Another bit of advice I would have is to trust the system. It was very hard for me when I started law school. People were telling me that I had to study differently. And I'm like, I know how to study. I've been, a student my whole life. Why is law school so special? But I did find that, in fact, it was very different than a lot of my undergrad academics in the humanities. And so trusting in people like Mary Basick, who is a fantastic and amazing human, and I blame her for passing the bar exam. Thank you, Mary. So trust in them. And then as you move on through your classes, once you have your footing, then obviously adapt that to what works for you. Work smart, always work hard, not smart, not hard. Work hard and smart.
I want to chime in to what Matt said about the idea of doing things differently. And what you want to do is, you, and you bring that to the party. But the study of law is slightly different because of the way that material is presented and what Jeannie was talking about like it's not so much that someone tells you things, but they tell you enough for you to start asking the questions. But isn't that what lawyers do, right? People tell us stuff and we're like, but what about this? How about this? And you're like exploring to get more information. So think about what works for you, but be very open-minded to the idea that you might need to do some things differently and have some adjustments that you're going to make, and be kind to yourself as you try different things out, because it's all not, like Jeannie said this too, it's not going to all feel comfortable right away. You're not going to feel good at doing, like Matt saying he's taking notes, he's not much of a note taker. Well, maybe the first notes didn't look too great and weren't exactly helpful, but he got the hang of it. So I just wanted to chime in because I'm the moderator. So anyways, let me see. Ray, we haven't heard from you. Can you chime in for us on what works for you and when you reflect?
All of the panelists had a lot of really great advice, so I don't know what more I can contribute, but just a couple of things, kind of to go to what Matt said. There's no one way to study in law school, and I think that's really important that you guys figure out, at least in the first few months and at least your first couple of semesters. How do you learn? How do you retain information? Like for me, I tried to do what Janie said not to do. I tried to memorize everything like right away. And of course, my brain just shut off and it just didn't work. And eventually for me, I learned that flashcards and repetition of like smaller concepts and just thinking broadly about the concepts brought me a lot of success in eventually down the road when I figured it out. And then a friend of mine that went to Southwestern, she said she felt like she was ready to take her law school exams when she felt she could simplify the material so simply that she could explain the concepts to her grandmother. Like there really is no one way to study as long as you know for yourself, like, this is the best way for me to retain information. And like Janie said, once you figure that out, it'll kind of echo during bar prep. The whole point of like actually sitting and studying for the bar isn't necessary. You can learn the material during that process, but a lot of it really is just jogging your memory to kind of dig up what you remembered. And although I'm sure you guys have felt this way, like when you study and you do everything you can to study for the test, and then you kind of brain dump and you just kind of throw it in the garbage that is your brain. Afterwards, you feel like you don't remember it, but you'd be surprised. It sticks around. So just kind of have faith in what you can retain. It's there, and your brain is going to expand and do what it can to kind of get you to where you need to be. One of the greatest things besides learning how to study during law school is also go to office hours. Like, there is something to be said about trying to figure it out on your own, and you should do the work and do everything you can to figure out the answer to your question. But if you're at a loss, all of the professors at Southwestern are amazing. So one of my favorite professors was Professor Popovich, who he taught me for contracts, and Janie and I had him for our favorite class together during 3L. And he would invite it, like he would invite office hours. The office hours he had posted were a formality. We would go all the time, like until really, really late. And we would just kind of talk his ear off about all things, anything law school related or bar prep or whatever. But the professors are such an awesome resource, in addition to secondary sources and note-taking and stuff like that. They're at your disposal to kind of help you get to where you need to be, as for the exam, for class, for bar prep, whatever it is. And as for actual bar prep, there's no way around it. It is the most grueling process you will ever go through. You have to treat it like a job. I can't speak for Jose, Matthew, or Janie's experience, but at one point I was just so tired from studying. I went to go make myself a sandwich, and I tried to get cheese out of the refrigerator, and instead of putting it back in the refrigerator, I just tried to jam it into a drawer and I walked away. Like, your brain just stops working for regular stuff. It is incredibly grueling, but trust the process and do whatever you can to kind of get comfortable with the uncomfortable and ask questions. And I have to say, Professor Basick was such a godsend during bar prep. She was like checking in on us, giving us game plans, and hey, maybe this is where you should be. Here's a suggested study plan. Even if we didn't stick with Themis or whatever bar prep companies are out there, it doesn't just extend your time in law school. They do everything you can everything they can rather, to make sure you're successful until, you pass the bar, and they check in on you, until, I guess now, like, we're all done with the bar and Professor Basick checks in on us all the time. So it never stops. But I'm very excited that you guys are all here. You guys picked a wonderful program, no matter how you do it or how because Janie did day, I did, kind of a hybrid program, and Matthew did scale. Oh my gosh. But there's no right or wrong way to do it. Just do your best.
So much great advice. And I have to comment, one of the comments that Ray made about her, I think he was talking about a friend who tried to explain law like she could explain it to her grandma. That is the best tip ever. And I tell the folks who are studying for the bar that what you want to do is, if you understand something, if you can explain it to somebody and give examples, like a grandma or anybody who isn't already a lawyer, because they'll know what you're talking about. So that even a kid, like a junior high age kid, like that, kind of someone smart enough that you have to really explain all the pieces to, is perfect. And so if you have any family or friends who will allow you to do that while you're getting started, I think it's a great tip. So let me ask you this, Ray. I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to start with you. What if anything, do you wish you had done differently compared to what you did right? And I have a feeling I might know what you're going to say here.
I'm sorry, what was that last part?
I said, I think I might know what you're going to say.
What I would do differently? There's so much. We don't have enough time. What are you talking about? What would I do differently? I would take my own advice. I would probably figure out how I learned. I would go to office hours. I forged really wonderful relationships with all of my professors in like the latter time of law school. I didn't figure it out until a year or two down the road, or a year down the road, but just be patient and kind with yourself during this process, and a big thing is you have to take care of your mental health during all of this. It is during law school and bar prep and beyond, you will be tested like never before. And it is so important to kind of do a little heart check and check in on yourself and do what you need to do to check in on your mental health, even if it means taking a walk without your phone or checking constantly on, bar prep stuff. Just kind of be kind to yourself during this process. It's tough.
That is super great advice. I think that you do have to have some awareness, because what you're doing is a big undertaking and it's a little bit exhausting mentally, and it can wear on you. What about you, Matt? Anything that you wish you had done differently?
No, I mean, it all worked out okay. So no, certainly. I do wish that I had taken a bit more time for myself in terms of self-care and that sort of thing. I think, as I listened to you go on reading that bio, I did a lot and I don't regret any of it, but I think doing that and doing the 2-year program was intense. And I think, try to really be honest with yourself as to what's reasonable to take on. I always find a way to get it done, but sometimes that comes at the expense of taking care of yourself. I think trusting in the system a bit, and specifically like to the academic support at the school that's really helping to guide your study, especially in the beginning until you really get your bearing and get a sense of things. Same thing for bar study. When I met Professor Basick and started, reading her book and listening in her class, things really started clicking for me in terms of how I needed to think specifically for the bar. And when I frankly just trusted that she knew what she was talking about and that I would just take her advice on it, it became a lot easier for me. Not easier in the sense that I wasn't driving myself crazy studying every day, but I think another thing that I want to mention is, and if you've made it to law school, I'm sure you've figured this out, you have to take responsibility for your own learning. And so, you may have a professor that you don't like, or you may have a class where or a period where you're out sick a few days and you feel like you're falling behind. At the end of the day, whether you like the professor or not, or whether there are certain externalities going on, assuming they still afford you the reason or the space to study, give yourself that space and take responsibility and do the work that you need to. And don't be afraid to ask for help.
That is the perfect ending to the panel. I'd like to move to your questions. I'm sure you all have some. So you can direct them at me or any of the panelists. Do you know how to use the raise hand feature on Zoom? If not, let's learn now. You guys know how to use it. There's a little reaction button on the bottom and you can raise your hand and we'll take them in order. And let's go ahead and start with, am I saying your name right? Chantel.
Yes, that's correct. So my question is to Janie. Did you spend a lot of your time studying alone, or did you have like study buddies or smaller study groups?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. So it For me personally, I remember I started law school trying to study with other people and kind of creating study groups. However, honestly, I found it to be slightly distracting, just because people are on different paces and have kind of I found it to be a little distracting. And so not only maybe I wanted to study more, or also like when we were going to study. So I initially started studying with people, but then I slowly kind of started to just studying by myself. And then what I did do that I found to be quite helpful was I tended to study alone. Kind of at a certain point, I just gave up on studying with other people. I found I got more accomplished and got through more material studying alone. However, when it came to finals, I would meet up with a friend who I thought was on the, not necessarily at the same level as me, but I met up with somebody who was as motivated to do well in the class as I was. And we would take practice tests together alone, silently. And then we would kind of come together and talk about our reasoning and the answers we came up with. So I would say majority of the time I studied alone, but I would reach out to friends and stuff like that to kind of talk about legal concepts and things when I felt necessary.
Thank you.
Awesome. Samantha, what's your question?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for this panel today. I had a question about Southwestern, whether or not they provided all of the subject areas that are going to be tested on the bar, as well as where can we find a format to brief the cases that's really good.
All of the subjects that are tested on the bar, the courses are built into your program. There are some that you can opt out of if you're at the top of the class and things like that, but you will have that foundation. For briefing the cases, your foundations class will teach you how to do that, or if you're doing the Bison Bar Prep, which is kind of that little intro class, you'll learn about a format for briefing cases to prepare for class. And I think you'll get plenty of instruction that already, you don't need to do anything extra, I guess is my point.
Thank you.
Okay, is it Natalie? Am I saying your name right?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hi. Thank you for all your time. And my question is, how did you balance your everyday distractions while preparing for the bar exam?
Okay, who wants to take it? I took the bar exam a really long time ago. So I want to hear from you.
I can take
So,
it.
go ahead.
We can both take it. Do you want to go first?
I was just going to say that preparing for the bar prepared me for the pandemic, because I basically locked myself in my bedroom for however many weeks of bar study it was. And so it was very isolating, and I got used to working from home, and I got used to working from, my sofa or my bedroom. So I think you just have to find a space that's yours, and then ultimately busy yourself with the work that's in front of you to try to keep those other distractions at bay.
I can't speak for Matthew's experience when he was studying for the bar, but I was studying at my family's house. So there were people running around all the time. So for me, it was really important to lay down boundaries as soon as I got there, to say, hey, these are my hours where I'm studying. Like, unless the house is on fire or something is terribly, terribly wrong, do not come in. And setting those boundaries were really important. And I would keep my phone out of the room and kind of treat it as like, I put in the work for this amount of time and like real hard work, then it'll all come together. So just be upfront with boundaries if you're living with other people, or if you're by yourself. Like, it's important to keep yourself accountable.
Thank you.
Yeah, and hopefully, if I can just add, hopefully you'll be able to go to a library, which was my plan. But then because there was a pandemic, we had to do it at home. And so that wasn't like as ideal, because I live in a one bedroom with my partner. But like they said, you have to set your boundaries, and hopefully you'll have people around you who want to support you, and as long as you let them know what you're comfortable with and what you need, then you can make it work no matter where you are.
Awesome. Paulina, what's your question?
My question is going to be actually to Jose. I was wondering, because he was so set already on the entertainment when he started. I was wondering, how was his experience with, like, did he ever have any doubts while he started the school? Because he was going from the first, from what I understand, to the entertainment. And did he find it as fulfilling as he thought from the beginning it would be once he got where he's right now?
Yeah, I mean, oh, I can hear myself. Weird. It's wonderful. Wonderful to be able to work in entertainment, and that was my plan all along. I would say the main thing if you want to work in entertainment is that you should do internships or externships. And that's something that I sort of prioritize because I really wanted to work in entertainment, and I was sort of really wanting to actually do entertainment legal work. Because I thought that would help me get a job later on if I had hands-on experience. So that's a really important thing that I recommend people do, is try to get internships. And there's a really good externship office where they'll help you get one. But that's not enough to just rely on them. I think it's important to network and talk to other people who have been through it before, and that's how you learn about different entertainment law firms and places you can work and like paths you can take. And also faculty. The faculty and the professors who teach entertainment law are just so great, and they've worked in the industry for a long time, so they can really help you. I joined the Entertainment Law Society, and that's how I met a lot of people who were 1 or 2 years above me, who had already gone through what I was going through. So that was really, really helpful.
Thanks, Jose. Is it Leonie Black Ray? Are you there? Okay, I don't know what happened, so let's try, is it Karen Gregorian? Did I say it right?
Yes, Karen.
Karen, hi, what's your question?
This is for anybody who wants to answer it. I was just curious, what the difficulty difference would be sort of between studying for the LSAT and studying for the bar exam, since the bar exam is a little more concrete in what you need to know in comparison to the LSAT. So I was looking for an opinion on that.
I want to answer this one. So only because the LSAT was absolutely miserable for me. And like I said, I walked away from the bar exam thinking it was easier than it was going to be. So I feel like with the LSAT, it's all so new, right? And you're just trying to for me, I was just trying to get it out, make it out of there. With the bar exam, none of it's new. You know all of the information. You will have learned it already in law school. So you're not going to come across things where you're just like, what the heck is going on? What the heck are they talking about? What am I supposed to be doing? A, you have already learned everything during law school, and B, our bar prep team is phenomenal. And so they not only will help you kind of re-engage some of that material. If you do the bar prep courses your 3L year, your last year, but they'll also kind of teach you like tips and tricks like specific to the bar exam. So for me, they were two totally different worlds, between like not knowing what the heck I was doing to feeling scared and terrified, because it's scary and terrifying. But at the end of the day, comfortable in that nothing was new.
So thank you very much.
Okay, are you there now, Leonie?
Yes, hi, thank you. I don't know why I can't be shown, but I haven't figured it out. But I wanted to ask, thank you for having this event. I wanted to ask Dean Gear, as a student who has yet to be admitted to law school. So I wanted to find out what the process is. I've had to, for a couple of years, change directions due to, things in the family, but now I'm back on track and I'm trying to figure out, is it too late to get into Southwest this fall? If so, where should I be? Like, how do I, because I've gotten my degree a long time ago. So now I want to go to law school. So now I'm back on track. I'm trying to figure out how do I get back on track so I get back in the swing of things?
So the short answer is you can still apply for this coming fall. It obviously is pretty late in the cycle, but our application deadline was extended to July 1st. So you can still submit if you want to be considered. Those would be for the traditional full-time program and the 2 part-time programs. The skill program is starting next week, so we will not be considering any other candidates for that program. But that being said, if you did want to apply for this coming fall still, you would have to have already taken the LSAT or be taking the LSAT. That's basically this week. So if you do not yet already have an LSAT score, then it would be too late. This June test is the last administration for this cycle, and the next LSAT being offered is sometime in August, and that would be for the fall of 22 consideration.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, Taniqua, what is your question?
Hello, how you doing today? My question is there kind of like a baby bar? I know they do the prep. Is there like a testing or something after the prep? And then my other question is, after taking the bar, how do you feel for the panelists? It prepared you as a life as an attorney. Do you sometimes look back and think, oh, I'm in a similar situation as, I was prepared for? So that's kind of my 2 questions.
So I'll answer the first one. Students at Southwestern do not have to take the baby bar. California is unique in that they have California accredited law schools, there's unaccredited law schools. They're very generous with who can sit for the bar in California, but we are an ABA accredited school, so the students at Southwestern don't have to take the baby bar. Does anyone else want to answer the other question?
I can just say that I look at my outlines from bar prep and from law school all the time, more so for like personal stuff, like, wills and trusts and things like that, because I'm curious and I, encounter these issues, some property law, rental stuff, like, it does sort of prepare you. And yeah, so I do look at that stuff all the time.
Thank you.
For me, it was more about helping teach me how to think like a lawyer than it was about any of the specific rules I was learning. A lot of them are just example rules that don't actually apply anywhere. But by using those, you begin to see the world differently and understand how to approach problems differently. So to that extent, it helps prepare you for practice. And also, you have to work really hard through law school and through the bar. And I think that hard work, commitment to learning also helps prepare you to be a lawyer.
Great answer.
And then if I can I chime in one thing too?
Go, Janie, my dog's barking.
Okay, so like Matt said, the bar exam in law school kind of teaches you the skills that you'll need for practice after the bar. One thing I was kind of surprised by was that during law school, you folks may have heard of the Socratic method, where you're sitting in class and the professor will call on you on the spot without you raising your hand to find out whether or not you know the answer. I think it's really funny because I will be doing work, I'll be doing research for a partner here, and it's almost like I'm back in the hot seat, and they'll just start kind of like machine gunning questions at me about like the motion I wrote and the legal research I conducted, and it's just kind of you're back in that hot seat. And so that's one thing too. It's being comfortable with kind of learning how to research and then answer questions on the spot. So I think kind of the bar and law school teaches you that, which you'll use outside.
Oh, and can I add one thing, Professor Basick? It also, like, studying for the bar and everything also gives you like an insane amount of confidence too, like afterwards, and it kind of carries on to your profession. So I work in employment defense, and that's not something that is just like, it's not a subject you go over unless you take like a special class. So in that respect, like the core classes at Southwestern didn't necessarily directly go into the kind of stuff I work on now, but it gave me a lot of the confidence I needed to kind of carry on in my day-to-day work. So.
Awesome. We've come to the end of the time, and I know a couple of people had questions, and I feel bad that we're not going to get to them. I'm going to put my email in the chat. Any of you are welcome to ask me anything. I don't know if I'll know the answer, but I'll sure try. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm sorry, Justin, I was going to get to, I think we're just out of time, and Hila and Jean, but please feel free to reach out. And Lisa, did you have any parting words?
I just want to thank you, Dean Basick, and our wonderful panelists. You guys were phenomenal. I know you guys gave some great information. I loved Matthew's little tip that law school is your bar review. So I think that's a great way to think about this, just kind of soak it all in, whether or not you're starting law school this fall or in the future. I think you all got some great advice today, and I'm happy to see so many people stick around. So I'll put my email in the chat as well if there's anything else I can help with from the admission side. And I hope everyone stays well, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you for attending. It was nice to see all your faces.